over here, we are going to go to round 21 of the 2025 FI Formula 1 World Championship. It will be the penultimate fifth, that's right, the fifth Sprint Grand Prix weekend of the season. And we cannot wait to introduce it to you over here in these exclusive race introductions. Obviously brand new for the 2025 season and long to continue obviously into the future as well. So over here in this race introduction for the final time, sporting the fashion, the 2025 fashion, sporting that HP logo, which doesn't quite fit in, but a really nice, Ferrari design with this team shirt. You will see it for the final time, so definitely let me know how you enjoyed it. It's the one that you've seen the most, because we're also using it, for example, for our hot laps, as you do know very well, and also for the red hot laps. And yeah, it's pretty comfortable, and I'm pretty sure as we will be racing it, it will take us to victories, right? And it better do so, because we are still aiming, to record the first victory of the 2025 season as we speak, of course, because the first 20 Grand Prix and 4 sprint races, we've only managed to win that Chinese sprint, but should have really recorded, that historic occasion of the victory, didn't obviously appear to be so at the time. But yes, we are going to go here to the Brazil, to the Autódromo José Carlos Pache. We will introduce the track to you, tell you how successful we've been over here, as Scuderia Ferrari, and of course, as we youngest Smalingsan champion, as I will be aiming over here, to win here quite incredibly, for the 4th time, on the trot, basically ever since, I raced here for the first time in 2010, which didn't go so well. I've managed to win 4 race sessions, 3 Grand Prix, 1 sprint, on the trot. So, if I manage, because it is a sprint, we can manage to win both over here, that would obviously, be setting up some records, as, we haven't won 5 in Monza, but we would be equaling 4 Grand Prix victories, for example, in Monza, in particular, among other tracks, as we are aiming to lift this shiny golden Formula 1 Grand Prix winner trophy. So, over here, this race introduction, of course, will not come, because it is a sprint weekend, 24 hours before the actual start of the free practice 1, but 48 hours before the start of the free practice 1, because 24 hours before the start of the free practice 1, we will have the hot lap, and I will jump into the cockpit driving this beautiful SF1000 T818 Formula 1 racing simulator, and I will take you around the track and tell you how to master it in well less than 70, maybe 69, maybe even 68 seconds, as we are once again aiming to go significantly quicker than the real Formula 1 drivers, which is not a surprise, because we know that the F125 cars, they are a little bit sluggish mid-corner, right? So that is one of the main reasons. Of course, then after that, we will do the new F125 hot lap, so that you can see it, as Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton will be driving that Scarlet Red Ferrari around this famous circuit, which made its way onto the Formula 1 calendar in 1973. And then once the free practice 1 goes, because it's a solitary practice, we will do the red hot lap, where we will show you the fastest that I've done around this magnificent circuit. And then we will go to the sprint qualifying, just like the real F1 drivers will do. Then we will do the sprint at the very same time, and we will be aiming again to go, perfect over here in the sprint races in Brazil. Then we will go to the qualifying, just like the real Formula 1 drivers will do. Then 24 hours after the sprint, you will get a sprint reaction. Then, as the real Formula 1 drivers, as the 5 lights will come out, and they will compete, of course, for that Grand Prix victory over here at round 21 of the championship in Brazil. I will do the same. And I'm feeling quite confident about it, and then 24 hours later you will get the reaction, same like we did for the United States Grand Prix, Australian Grand Prix, as well as the Miami Grand Prix and the Chinese Grand Prix, which were the other sprint races, only with Qatar remaining. And I have to say, at the beginning of the race introduction, because obviously there are not so many news, obviously lots of debate about cutting the track, but that won't really be a problem over here in Sepang. Well, I guess we're missing that Malaysian Grand Prix in Interlagos, because if you would cut the first corner, it goes kind of in the opposite direction to Mexico, but you're going downhill, and there is a very high curb. And this is exactly, I think, what the Mexican GP should do, which is, for example, to probably not build the elevation, but put in a bit of a gravel that's really good, or for example, having a bit higher curbs, so that the drivers are discouraged from cutting in, which I think spoiled kind of what was a scintillating and very pulsating Mexican Grand Prix. And you can see, sometimes having a really great, elevation, which in some circuits is not present, can be a natural deterrent, because obviously you don't want to go, down the hill in a Formula One car, but maybe going across the grass in a Formula One car will not really cause it any damage, right? As long as you don't damage the floor, then you pretty much, have succeeded in, for example, maintaining your position, but not playing exactly fair, right? And this one also goes to Charles Leclerc, right? Who perhaps, should sometimes accept that he's behind Hamilton, even though, of course, I think there's no doubt that he's the quicker one of the drivers, but of course we know it was all triggered by the Red Bull villain, who hopefully will be, a time out of the championship, or, his title charge will be gone, just like, for example, Norris's was in last year. Again, the weather can break havoc over here, so we will see what will happen when the Brazilian Grand Prix truly and honestly, gets underway. But yeah, a lot to stake, especially in the Drivers' Championship, Constructors' Championship, obviously long being decided. But we could have the Sprint Championship, and this is exactly what I wanted to highlight, right? As we went over the news, which is, as you will see when I'm doing that concurrent Formula 1 2024 season, if we would have Sprint Championship, it's definitely going to be very exciting, because, every place matters, right? Every point would matter. So I don't understand why F1 now in the 5th year of the sprint races doesn't award the Sprint Championship. I have to say it works like a treat, even though, for example, Verstappen being very strong, in the sprint races would probably, be 4-time sprint champion. But the fact is that, this would have added, another, kind of an element to the race weekend. You could, of course, still use the points for the real Drivers' Championship, and yeah, I think it would just be, the proper way, to kind of go for it. You can think of it like, for example, the European soccer, which I believe, has, or the football, of course, as we like to call it, which has the best, I believe, the kind of the design of the season, because you have the league, right? But then you also have the cups, which of course make for if you don't do well in a league, you could still, for example, win a cup. So again, there's always a lot of action going on, and having, for example, 3 cups like here with F1, we could definitely have the real championship and the sprint championship. That definitely for the foreseeable future, would be very, very exciting. So I hope F1, you are definitely listening. And over here, we are very soon going to turn around the Scuderia Red Retina IMEC, and we are going to take a look at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, right? Then we will take a look at the Formula 1 Drivers' Championship, which is the closest it's been pretty much, since the beginning of the season. And then the Constructors' Championship, and our improved form, I hope, will carry over here to Brazil, even though we don't have the Brazilian drivers like we had with Barrichello and Massa, who were always doing very well here, putting in our pole positions, winning few races, and in the case of Massa, almost a world championship. As you do know, this track being obviously very special also to Lewis Hamilton. He won his first championship here, so it will be interesting how well we will do. I think if we stay out of the trouble, the lift and coast, clearly was a bit of an issue in Mexico that we have to race, in this way. But I think, if we can qualify well, the race will definitely spice up. Maybe in a sprint we will have another collision, or even in a Grand Prix. Who knows what will happen? This could be another great opportunity to win the race, because as you see on that beautiful calendar there to my right, we only have 4 races to go, right? And in Las Vegas, I think if we are, to win somewhere, we should win in Las Vegas. Definitely favorites for that. But Qatar and Abu Dhabi, we've never won, these 2 races. So, at least in Brazil we won. So I really hope that we can do well. And, to be honest, if we can lead into turn 1, because once again, Formula 1 in 2025 is mostly a lot about qualifying and how well you can manage the start. I think, we can manage it if we are 1-2, after the first corner, no matter if we qualify on pole position, both cars on the front row or not. I believe for sure we are going to win the race, because, while it's like Michael Schumacher, for example, proved 19 years ago when he put in, I believe, the best performance in Formula 1 history here at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, when, he got a puncture from Fisichella as he was fighting for the LZ8 Formula 1 World Championship. Starting 10 due to the car problems, getting the puncture from Fisichella, Alonso's teammate, right, who was fighting Michael for the title, and then he was able to come back from the back of the field, almost, to catch the podium runners to the 4th place, almost, with Alonso being there, and of course, Massa winning just, maybe 5-6 seconds ahead down the road. That was a brilliant performance. So overtaking even without the DRS was possible. We will see over here, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually gonna see more overtakes. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if the cars are unable to accelerate out of the final corner. and then, actually it will be quite difficult to overtake. So we will see, because the track is relatively tight in the midsection. So, if we can build up a gap of which we could, if we are 1 and 2, for example, after turn 1, let's say Leclerc is leading from Hamilton or vice versa, and the other kind of drops back a little bit, and the lead driver builds up the gap of 5 to 10 seconds, definitely, anything, of course, would be possible. So, yeah, we will see exactly what happens. So now, let's take a look at the track and introduce it to you, and as well as we will also take a look at how well we have done over here. Of course, with regards to the DRS zone, we have 2 of them, and here it comes. So let's turn this beautiful Scuderia Red Retina iMac around, okay? And this is Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, pretty much unchanged since 1973, when we had the first race. And you can see over here, start, is, again, you're heading uphill a little bit like in Austin, but again, great overtaking opportunity into the Senna S's. So well named, obviously, the track is named after, the kind of the breakthrough Brazilian driver, Jose Carlos Pache, but the Senna S's, which are over here, they always offer so many overtaking opportunities. It's a really well designed corner. And yeah, it will be, it's so fittingly named after, the greatest driver ever to come here from the land of the Samba. Then here you have the first DRS zone. The braking zone is relatively short over here from the 8th to the 4th gear, as you will see. It is definitely possible to overtake, but you gotta be very close to the car over here. Otherwise, you have to do what the Red Bull villain did when he was fighting with Hamilton in 2021, and run him off the road. Then you go through the turns, 5 and then 6, 7, very, very important, again, to pretty much throw the car into the corner, be just going for it. Don't be afraid over here, that's I'm, for example, very strong, as you will see when I will do the races. And then here, downshift steady, so you don't look up the wheels, go then through this slow midfield section. Turn 8, 9, it is very important to get the rotation. I really did struggle with it when I was starting, when I was at the beginning of my Formula 1 career, but now I'm just like a champion. And then you get here to the turn 10, it is super slippery over here, so you gotta be very careful on the exit, but once you are, definitely, go for it, because it is very important over here, to hit the apex just right. So then you can go very quickly, onto the power, but you can also spin out. So I would advise, you go high revs 3rd gear, but not completely floor it, and then 4th gear, and then 5th gear, definitely 4th gear with a bit of a battery, and the overtake, as we like to call it, basically maximum battery power, and then the 5th gear, you can then floor it. Obviously, detection point being here, so it is important that you do get a good exit, because you can see the DRS zone being quite long. This is all flat out, even though it doesn't look like great, again, overtaking opportunities over here, and I'm sure it will be a magnificent race, and it will be interesting, especially, who will do well over here, also in terms of the championship, because I do believe, maybe who comes up with a victory here in Brazil, given the nature of the fact that we will definitely dominate Las Vegas, right? And then Qatar and Abu Dhabi kind of being similar in terms of, the corners. I wouldn't be surprised that hopefully not the driver who could equal the only, driver who has managed to win 5 consecutive Formula 1 drivers titles in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, and 2004. Michael Schumacher, obviously the biggest ever Ferrari legend. Obviously, let's hope it's not going to be him. Maybe the young boy from Australia, or the loyal British driver. We will see. Whoever wins it over here could then go on to become the world champion. So as we can see, the tracks are relatively short, 4.3 kilometers, which means that in order to run over 300 kilometers, the standard race distance, we will do 71 laps. So a lot of overtaking opportunities. Lap record 1:10.540. We will smash it by a few seconds. And here is how well we have done. So you can see Interlagos means that it is located in between the lakes. As you can see, for example, over here, usually we don't get to see the scenery, but here is how well we've done at Scuderia Ferrari. 11 victories. Obviously, we've been racing here for 50 years, so we've done really well around the Michael Schumacher's era, and hopefully, we will be able to win here, because I have to say, apart from the first race that I've done here, I've always enjoyed the track. The setup was right, and I was always pretty much dominating here. Pole position 7 for us, Scuderia Ferrari, 8 fastest laps, 32 podiums. That will be a bare minimum now, with Charles Leclerc and Hamilton getting very close. If anything, it would be great to see Hamilton all pole position here. He actually surprisingly has lots of fans here in Brazil, and it would have been great for him to get the finally the first podium for Scuderia Ferrari here. So yes, these are the statistics over here. So let's take a look at who will be our main competitor. So this is the Drivers' Championship for the 2025 season, and you can see it's all between, I guess, the McLaren boys. So Lando Norris has reclaimed the lead for the first time since Saudi Arabia. Just look at that calendar. Incredible 15 races with him chasing the championship lead, 357 points. Oscar Piastri, 356 points. It hasn't been this close since the beginning of the season. So everything to play for. Max Verstappen, of course, not out of it. 321 points, 36 points behind. But we hope, just like pretty much last year, Brazil sealed his 4th title, which of course did for me, but earlier because I'm a better, faster driver. Then let's hope that this will kick him out of and quash any hopes that he would have of getting the Drivers' Championship. What is likely to do is that for the 4th place, with George Russell driving for Mercedes, 258 points, he's still mathematically in it because he's 99 points behind, and there are 116 points on offer. But for sure, once we finish this sprint race, he cannot mathematically become a champion, and hopefully he will be looking behind and over his shoulders, because Charles Leclerc for Scuderia Ferrari, our lead driver, 210 points. If Leclerc can win here and Mercedes will have a bad race, and also if he can do well in a sprint and Hamilton backing it up, 48 points is definitely not impossible to overcome. 6th, Lewis Hamilton, Scuderia Ferrari, 146 points. I think it's fair to say that Lewis is due to finish 6th, but let's hope that he can win for Ferrari the real proper Grand Prix, or at least the 2nd sprint race, or at least be on his 3rd actually sprint podium, right? Because he also finished 1/3 in a sprint. So let's hope that Lewis will do a good job, and the 7-time champion can at least get on a podium in a real Grand Prix. 7, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Mercedes. He's out of Europe, 97 points. He will go over 100 points. I'm sure, pretty much beating George Russell on merit in Mexico was very impressive. 8, Alexander Albon Williams, 73 points. He kind of needs to get back on track. 9, Nico Hülkenberg, Kick Sauber, 41 points. 10, Isaac Hadjar, Racing Bulls, 39 points. Can he hold on to the top 10 spot? Because 11, Carlos Sainz Williams, 38 points. He will definitely want to reclaim it. 12 is Fernando Alonso, Aston Martin, 37 points. I wouldn't be surprised if he is going to do a great job over here. Hopefully he won't do anything terrible in a race, or for example when we race him. 13 is then Oliver Berman, has 32 points. Informed driver, obviously Ferrari Junior. It will be interesting to see what happens in that interim Haas battle there. 14, Lance Stroll, Aston Martin, 32 points. 15, Liam Lawson, Racing Bulls, 30 points. 16, Esteban Ocon has 30 points. This, if he gets beaten by Berman, and it definitely looks like, what is the future of Ocon? You might be wondering. It's just like, what is the future of 17, Yuki Tsunoda? Red Bull Racing, 28 points. I mean, if he can't get the points in Mexico, can he even get them in Brazil? Can he stay in that seat? And then we have 18, Pierre Gasly, Alpine, 20 points. 19, Gabriel Bortoleto, the homeboy from Kick Sauber, 19 points. He will have lots of fans, and I'm sure he will get out of that kind of the last position in the standings of all the full-time drivers, because Franco Colapinto will have lots of fans here too. For Alpine, 0 points. Obviously, it would be great for him to get the first points. Jack Doohan is 21st. Alpine, he won't race. He did the first 6 races. He is on 0 points. So over here, this is how the Drivers' Championship looks like. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren is retaining the lead with 713 points. They are already champions. 2nd, Scuderia Ferrari, 356 points. Let's do well, beat Mercedes-Benz, who are 3rd, 355 points, to build up that gap and seal the 2nd place in Las Vegas. And then we can see 4, the Red Bull, actually not that far off, 346 points. If they continue title charge, anything is possible. After the summer break, before when we were returning from the summer break, we would have never thought this would be possible. But yeah, Red Bull, with Verstappen in a title fight, sadly, and yeah, who knows what happens? They are just 10 points behind, so we definitely, gotta perform strongly, because if they can finish 2nd with just 1 car, that would be, something for history books. 5th, Williams, 111 points. they pretty much are done to finish 5th. 6 Racing Bull 72 points, 7 Aston Martin 69 points, 8 Haas 62 points. Definitely huge fight for a 6 in the standings, because 9 King Sauber on 60 points. They are definitely in it. 10 Alpine 20 points. Getting a lot of points, but again, definitely gonna finish 10th unless they repeat what they did in Brazil. Exact 12 months ago to finish 2nd and 3rd, which would immediately catapult them into that fight for the 6th in the Drivers' Championship. So in the Constructors' Championship. So we will see. So this was the Constructors' table. This is the Drivers' table. This is all that it's about, and this is where we will be racing at Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. Definitely do check out the hot laps and the red hot laps, so that you can see just how exactly to drive it, what inputs to put in, so that you can be like me. Yeah, I'm the Sonic Sun champion, obviously Ferrari's fastest driver and Ferrari's biggest fan, who has managed to win here 3 times. I'm pretty much unbeaten since that 2016-2016 race. In 2010-2010, I finished well down the field, but then, improved tremendously. Of course, I also managed to be on a pole position 3 times, actually having 2 fastest laps, but, I'm always getting the fastest laps here in 2024. So definitely going to go for a hat-trick and the 4th Formula 1 Grand Prix winner trophy. And we will once again have a sprint. This is the sprint, kind of like in Austria, when I'm perfect, got in a pole position, gotten the race victory with the fastest lap. So we definitely aiming to make that a double, right? Of course! So everybody, now you know everything about this classic circuit that pretty much everybody loves. It is one of the most traditional circuits now on the Formula 1 calendar. The only ones in the South America. So I'm sure there will be lots of, packed fans to see how everything, pans out in terms of the driver's titles, the new local heroes, and especially, I guess, not really who will be leading the championship, how the driver's title will advance, but how Scuderia Ferrari will get back to the winning ways for the first time, or in terms of the sprint, 2nd time in the 2025, just like me, the already 4-time Scuderia Ferrari world champion. So definitely check it out. I will be finally aiming, to win the race over here as a world champion. Before, obviously, I won the title in 2024. I would always win when I was already a champion in that particular season, but I didn't win in the US, didn't win in Mexico, was a bit unlucky with the weather and obviously with the fuel consumption. So I'm sure we will now get it all right over here, hopefully in sunny Brazil, to go for race victories for Scuderia